So with Boud's representation of the reflection process, there are certain barriers associated with the process of responding to the experience. The idea that the reflective practitioner has an emotional reaction which has to be dealt with generates a number of barriers. Now, when Boud first designed the model of reflection, these barriers were not considered at that time. And it's only later when others began to recognize that barriers can become apparent in terms of the emotional response from the reflective practitioner that later the model was investigated from this point of view, so that the barriers were considered as a significant component for the reflective practitioner to engage with. And so in later texts we can see that the model, although still a triangular model, has associated with the emotional response component, the feelings component, the idea that there are certain aspects of the reflective practitioner's self, their professional identity, which they need to bring to that component so that the barriers can be addressed, named, and therefore overcome. And this all came about because the Boud actually found that in terms of applying the model to teaching, that there was a block created at the point where the reflective practitioner is beginning to engage with the experience and developing emotions about it. And so the barriers, when they were explored, were categorized into two areas. There were external barriers and internal barriers. The internal barriers are the most significant because they come with the reflective practitioner. They are internal, they are part of the emotional response. And they can come from any area, any arena for the reflective practitioner. For example, they can come from previous experiences, especially where those experiences in the classroom were very negative. These can actually create a barrier in terms of the reflective practitioner's emotional response. And of course, another barrier can be created internally by the reflective practitioner because of their assumptions, their presuppositions about teaching and about the learners and what the learners should and shouldn't be doing. And another component of the internal response, the internal barrier, is about the individual's understanding of what learning can take place, what is possible and what is not possible, because it actually creates boundaries which are difficult for the individual to overcome. Other internal barriers can be the individual's lack of awareness about their assumptions. This is important because if an individual is not aware of their presuppositions, of the assumptions that they're holding, then there's no way, no possible way that they can address them and overcome them so that they stop being barriers. There's also the emotional state of the individual, where a reflective practitioner is in perhaps a very highly stressed position. Then this actually becomes a barrier to accurate and efficient reflection. And of course, in a very busy work environment, what we have to do is make reflection a regular part of our practice. And when things are very busy, when things are very stressed, it can be difficult to establish the sort of behaviors which are needed to actually engage with reflection. And then there are external barriers, of course. External barriers relate to the people we work with, could relate to the students that we're working with and the parents. And of course, the external barriers include the work environment and the learning environment, and of course the wider community environment and how that impacts on the school and on the individual. And other external factors can be those social forces around us, how we stereotype and how other people stereotype people within the profession. Ideas about class and social status all can become external barriers to the reflection process.